So welcome to this third video on config files. Using the config file, you can customize your IPFS node the way you want it to behave. If you remember, when we run IPFS init, it creates this kind of a directory structure, and there is a file called config. Let's get it. So these are the options which IPFS provides you to customize. There are more which are not mentioned here. You can find them in the docs. So you just search IPFS config and go to the GitHub URL. You will find all of these options. Some of them might not be mentioned here, but you can add them in this file. And there is a detailed explanation for each and every option mentioned here. So you can also refer to the docs, and I would recommend to do so. Now let's check some of the main ones. So API, you can define CORS policy and authentication if you want to add a authentication once the request is reaching your IPFS node in between. You can do that here. Addresses. So if you remember, when we run IPFS daemon, you see a bunch of addresses like this. So these are coming from here, and you can change the ports as well. Announce, append announce. So announce, you can leave it like this. So by default, IPFS will automatically create the addresses using your public IP and stuff. But if you want to override those addresses, you can mention them in announce. Append announce does not override, similar to announce. Gateway, no announce. If you want to not to announce any particular address, put it in no announce. Swarm, used for communication between two peers in the network. So these are the ports used: IPv6, IPv4, both the addresses. NAT configuration, you can use this one. Bootstrap, the peers you are connected by default once you spin the IPFS node. If you want to remove some of these peers, add your custom peers, you can just change the bootstrap peers. Again, DNS for DNS configuration. Data store, here you can define the Bloom filter size. Then GC is garbage collection. So in IPFS, a file gets deleted in your node using garbage collection. So you unpin the file and then you run the garbage collection. Then IPFS automatically starts removing all the files which are unpinned. Now by default, garbage collection is 1 hour, which means that every 1 hour this GC will run. And there is another thing. If you check here, storage GC watermark and storage max. Storage max is 10 gigabytes and watermark is 90. So once 90% of this 10 gigabytes is filled, garbage collection will automatically get triggered and it won't wait for this 1 hour cycle. So this means this. Mounts, here you can, if you want to use your own data store, like you do not want to store it locally, as you want to use S3 or something else, you can just customize it here. Same for data store. And discovery, for your node discovery. Experimental, these are some of the experimental features. You can play around with it, and once these are stable, they just will pop up in the main section. Gateway, for customizing the gateway. Identity, so this is my peer ID and this is the private key using which this ID got generated. Import, so CID version, by default it's v0. If you want to change it, you can change it using this. Which hash function you want to use, what is the chunk size that you want to use. So by default is 256 kilobytes. If you want to a bigger chunk, 1 megabyte, you can change all of this here. Then IPNS, so IPNS we have not discussed it yet, but it's kind of a pointer. So suppose you are uploading your websites on IPFS. Now front end is an iterative process. You keep changing, updating your website, and every time you would not expect user to keep switching the CIDs, because on every iteration the CID will get changed. You want to have a static URL to provide it to your users. So in there you use IPNS. So it creates a IPNS name, and that IPNS name gets pointed to your latest version of CID, and user use that IPNS name for viewing your site or content. Migration, so if you want to migrate file from one IPFS peer to your peer, you can check this out. Mounts, so mount point for IPFS and IPNS. Then peering, again for connecting with other peers in the network. If you want to run a remote pinning service, you can check this out. plugins. IPFS has a lot of plugins for S3, Dynamo and more, so you can look into this. And then provider. So if you remember, IPFS, your IPFS node provides a list of CID that is he has to other PS which it is directly connected with. Now provider, you can define a strategy if you want only root CID to get provided or the entire DAC to get provided. You can update those things here. PubSub again for communication. Reprovider is like in what interval do I want to provide my CIDs to the PS. So if you do it like one day, so every day your CID will get provided to the users you are directly connected to. Then routing, for setting up the routing. Swarm, so here you can add the address filter, the address you do not want to connect with, connection manager. So how many peers you want to get connected to at a particular point of time. So suppose it's 600, so you do not want more than 600 peer to be connected with your net at a particular point of time. You can use this. So compute resources and network resources can be managed using this configuration. Same with relay. So if you want your node to act as a relay between two IPFS nodes, you can use these config for that. And yeah, that's it. So if you have any question, you can post it down in the comment, and see you in the next video. Bye.